So if your bill has made it all the way through the policy committee, the fiscal committee, the rules committee, and the floor, congratulations. But there's still work to be done. So don't take a seat just yet, because all that stuff you just did, you got to go do it over here. Every Senate bill now goes over to the House, and every House bill now goes over to the Senate. And all the steps that I talked about, they happen again. And all the things that they could do to your bill, they could do them over here. And in fact, as I think I mentioned, it's very rare for a bill in the Senate to be unchanged when it gets over to the House and vice versa. But to become a law, they have to vote on the exact same language in the exact same session. So what do you do when you have differences? Well, there's a process for it. It's called the concurrence and dispute process. And this is one of those rare instances where the terms are a little archaic, but they kind of track with modern English, so that's kind of nice. Concurrence is where, let's just take it for my example, a Senate bill. The Senate sends it over to the House, and in the Senate's mind, it's perfect. It doesn't need any changes. But the House doesn't see it that way. They have the audacity to slap some changes on it. And the Senate may like it, they may not. They're going to grumble about it because at the very least it means it's got to come back. But let's say they agree, they concur. Now, when I say they agree, that doesn't necessarily mean they love what the House did. That doesn't mean they wouldn't have done things differently, and it doesn't mean they don't prefer their version. It just means they can live with it. They may also love it, but really all they need to be able to do is, we can live with this. So they tell the House, hey, House, we concur. We agree with your changes. So there's a vote to concur, and then there's a final passage vote, like they're voting on the underlying bill again. That's easy peasy done, and now both chambers have voted on the same bill, the same language, the same session, so congratulations, it's on the way to the governor. But there's this other possibility. What if the Senate doesn't like what the House did? They can't live with it. They tried, but they just can't live with it. They dispute it. They are in dispute. They do not agree. And they tell the House, hey, House, we don't like what you did. Undo it. And they send it back to the House with a vote. And the House can say, too bad. We like our changes. We're not taking them off. And it can go back to the Senate. And the Senate, again, has another opportunity to say, we can live with it, or no, you bad House people. We like our bill. Fix it or don't send it back. And it can keep ping-ponging back and forth any number of times. And either they agree or they don't. If they don't ever agree, that's it. The bill is dead, at least for that session. Another possibility is the Senate could say to the House, we don't like what you did, but by the way, if you make this small change, we can live with it. And the House could say, okay, we'll roll it back, meaning roll it back in the process, put a different amendment that the Senate wants on it, and send it back over. And now the Senate concurs. They agree because the House made the change that maybe they don't love, but they can live with. Now they vote on it. It's been passed by both chambers. Good news, it's on the way to the governor. There is one more thing they can do, where if they keep fighting back and forth, or maybe not fighting, but not agreeing, they can ask for a conference committee. A conference committee is where the Senate and the House say to each other, okay, we got some big disputes going on here, and they're too big to be resolved by ping-ponging back and forth. So we're going to make a special committee, and that little committee, and it usually has 6 members, 3 from the Senate, 3 from the House, 2 from the majority, and 1 from the minority, and from each of them, 6 total. They take the bill back, and they are supposed to hammer out the differences. And they could agree to go with the Senate version, they could agree to go with the House version, or most commonly, they could agree to propose this entirely new thing. And that new thing is called a conference report. And it's just yet another form of an amendment, but it's a very specialized form of an amendment because one of the advantages of a conference report is you cannot amend a conference report. It's up or down. It's take it or leave it. And that sort of makes sense because the reason they got to this point was there was so much dispute beforehand. They don't want more dispute. They don't want any of that. So the conferees have come together and said, we agree, or a majority of us agree on this. take it or leave it. And then the House and the Senate vote it up or down. If they both vote it up, just like a final passage bill, goes to the governor and you're done. And that is how concurrence or dispute works. And there's all kinds of little terms and permutations of this, but in a very general sense, that's all it is. It's them working it out until they agree or are unable to agree on a final version for a bill that they can live with.